I sat at my makeshift desk in my bedroom, surrounded by textbooks and engineering notes, frantically preparing for my mechanical engineering final exams. My laptop, a 3-year-old Dell I bought with summer job savings, displayed complex KD drawings I'd been perfecting for months. Suddenly, Dad burst in without knocking, casual as ever. "We sold your laptop," he announced, not even looking at the screen. "Your brother needs a decent gaming setup to unwind from community college stress. Already promised the buyer." I stared at calculator, still in hand, textbook open to thermodynamics equations. 2 days until finals. The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. "What do you mean you sold my laptop?" Dad shrugged already, turning toward the door. "Tyler needs better equipment. Community college is really stressing him out, and he deserves to have something nice to help him relax." I followed him down the hallway to the living room, my bare feet slapping against the cold hardwood floor. There was Tyler, 19 years old, and grinning like he'd won the lottery, carefully unboxing a brand new gaming chair with built-in speakers. Next to him sat a massive cardboard box containing what looked like an RGB mechanical keyboard that probably cost more than my monthly food budget. "You can't just sell my laptop without asking," I said, my voice cracking slightly. "I have finals in 2 days. All my projects are on there. My notes, my CAD files, everything I need to graduate." Dad waved his hand dismissively. "You're resourceful, Ricky. You'll figure it out. Tyler needs this more than you do right now. Look at him. He's been so down about his classes." I glanced at Tyler, who was now pulling out a gaming mouse with more buttons than a NASA control panel. Down about his classes, the same classes he'd been skipping to play video games until 3 a.m. every night for the past semester. "Where's Mom?" I asked, looking around frantically. Kitchen," Dad muttered, settling into his recliner with a beer. "She's making Tyler's favorite dinner to celebrate his new setup." I found Mom at the stove, stirring a pot of spaghetti sauce. Her shoulders tensed when she heard my footsteps. "Mom, did you know about this?" She didn't turn around. "Your father handles the family finances." "This isn't about finances. This is about my education. My laptop had months of work on it." "I'm sure you backed everything up," she said quietly, still not facing me. I hadn't. Who backs up files when you never expect your own family to sell your computer without warning? Walking back to the living room, I noticed something else missing. "Where's my bicycle?" Tyler looked up from his unboxing. "Oh, Dad sold that like 3 months ago. I needed money for spring break with Jessica." "My bike." The blue Trek mountain bike I'd saved for 8 months to buy when I turned 16. "That was mine." "You barely used it anymore," Dad said from his chair. "Tyler needed to have some fun. College is hard work." I stared at him. Tyler was taking 12 credit hours at the local community college. I was carrying 18 credit hours in mechanical engineering at the state university, plus working 20 hours a week at the campus machine shop to pay for my textbooks and living expenses. "What else?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What do you mean?" Dad asked, not looking away from the television. "What else have you sold that belongs to me?" Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "Well, there were those engineering textbooks you never use anymore. Never use I reference those constantly. Dad sold them to the used bookstore downtown last month," Tyler admitted. "I needed new games for my console. My calculus textbook, my physics reference manual, my materials engineering handbook. Books that cost me $250 each sold for maybe $20 total. And your winter coat," Tyler added helpfully. "But we're the same size, so Dad figured I could use it. Mine had a small rip." I felt dizzy. My North Face jacket that I'd bought with 3 weeks of dishwashing wages from the campus dining hall. "Ricky, you're being dramatic," Dad said, finally looking at me. "Family helps family. We've always shared everything in this house. Shared." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. When have I ever taken anything from Tyler? That's different. You're the older brother. You're supposed to help out. I was 22. Tyler was 19. 3 years hardly made me his guardian. "What about my savings account?" I asked, suddenly panicking. The silence stretched too long. "Dad." "Well, Tyler's monitor was expensive," he said defensively. "And you're not using that money right now anyway." I ran upstairs to my room and opened my laptop. No, wait. I couldn't open my laptop because they'd sold it. I grabbed my phone and logged into my bank account, the joint account Dad had helped me open when I turned 16. $537. It should have been over $1,000. I scrolled through the recent transactions. A $500 withdrawal 2 weeks ago. The memo line read, "Tyler's monitor." That money was supposed to help pay for my senior year tuition. I'd been saving every extra dollar from my campus job for months. I walked back downstairs, my phone clutched in my hand. "You took $500 from my savings account." "Borrowed," Dad corrected. "We'll pay it back when things are better." When have things ever been better in this house? Mom finally turned around from the stove. "Ricky, please don't make this a bigger deal than it needs to be." "A bigger deal?" My voice rose. He sold my laptop 2 days before finals. He sold my textbooks. He took my savings. How is this not a big deal? "Your brother is going through a rough time," she said firmly. "He failed 2 of his classes last semester, and he's struggling to find motivation. We thought having some nice things might help him feel better about himself. He failed because he stays up all night gaming instead of studying." "That's not fair," Tyler protested from the living room. "College is harder than you think." I wanted to scream. I was taking advanced thermodynamics, fluid mechanics, and materials science. Tyler was taking Introduction to Psychology and basic math skills. Besides, Dad called out, "You're the smart one in the family. You'll figure something out. Tyler needs our support right now." I stared at my parents. Really stared. Mom looked uncomfortable but determined. Dad looked annoyed that I was disrupting Tyler's celebration. "You think this is support?" I asked quietly. "Of course it is," Mom said. "We're helping him build confidence." "By stealing from me, we're not stealing anything," Dad snapped. "Everything in this house belongs to the family. You've just always been too selfish to see it." The words hit me like a physical blow. Selfish. For wanting to keep the laptop I'd bought with my own money. For expecting my textbooks to still be on my shelf when I needed them. For thinking my savings account was actually mine. I looked around the room one more time. Tyler was back to admiring his new gaming gear. Dad was watching television. Mom was draining pasta like nothing had happened. And suddenly, I understood. This wasn't new. This was just the first time I'd been paying enough attention to see the pattern. When Tyler wanted a car for his 16th birthday, Dad bought him one. When I turned 16, he told me cars were expensive, and I should ride the bus. When Tyler wanted to quit his part-time job at the grocery store because it interfered with his social life, Dad said family finances could handle it. When I asked to reduce my work hours during finals last semester, Dad told me work ethic was important, and I shouldn't expect handouts. When Tyler chose the local community college because it was cheap and easy, everyone praised him for being practical. When I got accepted to the state university with a partial scholarship, Dad complained about how much the remaining tuition would cost. I walked back upstairs and sat on my bed, staring at the empty space where my laptop used to be. Tomorrow, I had my heat transfer final. The next day, my senior design project presentation. Both required computer access for calculations and slides I'd been preparing for weeks. My phone buzzed. A text from my study group asking if we were still meeting at my place tonight to review for the thermodynamics exam. I typed back, "Change of plans. My laptop isn't available anymore." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, everything okay. I started to type family emergency, then deleted it. Started to type technical difficulties, then deleted that too. Finally, I settled on, "I'll explain later. Mind if we use yours instead?" "Of course. Come over whenever you're ready." I grabbed my backpack and started shoving textbooks inside. At least they hadn't sold all of them yet. As I headed for the door, Dad called out from his chair, "Where are you going?" "Study group, since I no longer have a computer." "Don't be so dramatic, son. You're smart. You'll figure out some other way to take your tests." I paused at the front door, my hand on the knob. "You're right, Dad. I am smart. Smart enough to figure out that this family has never actually been about sharing. It's been about taking from me to give to Tyler. And I am going to figure something out." I closed the door behind me and walked into the cold night air, my backpack heavy on my shoulders, leaving behind the sound of Tyler's new gaming setup humming to life. The campus computer lab smelled like stale coffee and stress. At 11:30 p.m., it should have been empty, but desperation makes people do unusual things. I wasn't the only student cramming for finals in the fluorescent glow of university desktops. I found an open computer in the back corner and logged in with my student credentials. My thermodynamics notes from the past 3 months existed only on my sold laptop. My design project files, my calculation spreadsheets, all gone. Rough night. I turned to see Kevin Martinez, a graduate student I recognized from the engineering building. He was nursing a large cup of coffee and looked like he'd been here for hours. "Family emergency," I said, which wasn't exactly a lie. Kevin nodded sympathetically. "Been there. My sophomore year, my dad cleaned out my savings account to cover his gambling debts. Told me family comes first right up until he disappeared for 6 months. I started explaining my situation, and Kevin's expression grew darker with each detail. "That's not family," he said flatly. "That's theft with a side of emotional manipulation. I just need to get through finals somehow. Use my laptop." Kevin offered immediately. "I've got my own desktop set up at home. You can borrow it through the weekend." I stared at him. "You barely know me." "I know enough. Besides, no way I'm letting another engineering student fail because of family drama." While Kevin transferred his files to a flash drive, I checked my email on the lab computer. Mostly spam and assignment reminders. But one subject line caught my attention. Ford Advanced Engineering Training Program. Application deadline extended. I clicked it open. The message was from Ford's recruitment department, sent just 3 hours ago. Due to lower than expected application numbers, we're extending the deadline for our Advanced Engineering Training Program by 24 hours. This intensive 6-month program offers hands-on experience in automotive design and engineering, with direct placement opportunities following completion. Housing and meals provided. Small living stipend included. Applications must be submitted by 11:59 p.m. tomorrow. My heart started racing. A training program with housing. A chance to get away from the chaos at home and actually learn something valuable. I clicked through to the application requirements. Portfolio of engineering work. Academic transcripts. Personal statement. References. The portfolio was the problem. All my best projects were on the sold laptop. Kevin, do you remember that automatic transmission project I presented in Professor Johnson's class last month? The efficiency optimization thing. Yeah, that was brilliant. You reduced shift lag by, 30%? Oh, 42%, and it's all on my laptop, which no longer exists. Kevin leaned over and looked at the application. Ford program. That's huge. My cousin did that 2 years ago, and now he's designing hybrid engines in Dearborn. I have no portfolio to submit. What about your university server space? Everyone backs up projects there. I logged into the engineering department's file system. Some things were there, but not my recent work. Not the good stuff. Kevin was quiet for a moment, then started typing rapidly on his laptop. I've got an idea. That transmission project you presented at using the lab's computers right. The department keeps backup files of all presentations. He was right. 20 minutes later, we'd recovered my presentation slides and the underlying calculations. But it was just the surface-level material, not the deep engineering work that would impress Ford. We're going to recreate it, Kevin announced. From scratch, tonight. Kevin, that project took me 2 months to develop, and you remember every detail because it was yours. I'll help. I've got coffee energy drinks and nothing better to do. We worked until sunrise. Kevin proved to be not just helpful, but genuinely insightful. Together, we rebuilt my transmission optimization project this time with even better documentation and clearer technical drawings. My brain felt fried, but the work was solid. At 5:30 a.m., I submitted my application to Ford. 1 minute before the extended deadline. By 6 a.m., I was walking across campus to my heat transfer final running on nothing but adrenaline and caffeine. Somehow, despite everything, my mind felt clearer than it had in months. Maybe because, for the first time in years, I'd spent a night working towards something that was entirely mine. The final went better than expected. Without the distraction of family drama hanging over my head, I could focus completely on the engineering problems in front of me. My phone buzzed as I left the exam room. A text from Tyler. Dad wants to know if you're coming home for dinner. Mom made pot roast. I typed back, busy with finals. Another text immediately. Don't be weird about yesterday. Dad's right, you always figure things out. I turned off my phone. The next morning, my senior design presentation went smoothly. Kevin had lent me his laptop again, and I'd spent the early morning hours polishing my slides. My project on renewable energy storage systems earned praise from the review committee. Walking back to my dorm afterward, I felt a mixture of exhaustion and cautious optimism. Finals were over. I'd survived the chaos. Now, I just had to wait for grades and hope Ford might be interested. My phone had 17 missed calls from home. I called back and Dad answered on the first ring. Where the hell have you been? We've been worried sick. Taking finals. You know the things you made impossible by selling my laptop. Look, son, your mother thinks maybe we made a mistake about the timing. The timing? Selling the laptop right before your tests. We could have waited a few days. I sat down heavily on a bench outside the student union. That's what you think the mistake was. The timing. Well, what else? Dad, you sold my belongings without asking. You took money from my savings account. You've been doing this for years. That's not fair. We're family. Family shares. No dad. Tyler takes. I give. You enable. That's not sharing. The line was quiet for a moment. Your mother wants to talk to you. Mom's voice was gentler, but no less frustrating. Ricky, honey, we understand you're upset. But Tyler's really excited about his new equipment, and it would be cruel to take it away now. I'm not asking you to take it away. I'm asking you to understand that what you did was wrong. We were trying to help both of you. How did stealing from me help me? Don't use that word. We didn't steal anything. I closed my eyes and leaned back against the bench. The warm spring sun felt good on my face. Mom, I love you, but I need you to hear me. What Dad did was wrong, and your reaction is wrong too. You're acting like Tyler's feelings matter more than my education. That's not true. It is true, and until you can see that, I think it's better if we don't talk for a while. I hung up before she could respond. My phone rang immediately. I turned it off. That afternoon, while I was packing my things to move out of the dorm for the summer, Kevin knocked on my door. Ford called, he announced. They want to interview you. I stared at him. What do you mean, Ford called? I put my number as a secondary contact on your application since your family situation is complicated. They called an hour ago. They were impressed with your transmission project and want to do a phone interview tomorrow. Tomorrow. And Ricky. The person I spoke to said they're particularly interested in candidates who show resilience under pressure. Apparently, the fact that you recreated a complex project overnight after losing your original files caught their attention. I sat down on my half-packed suitcase. A Ford interview. A real chance at something beyond the dysfunction at home. There's something else, Kevin continued. If you get into the program, it starts Monday. As in next Monday. They'll provide transportation to Michigan housing, everything. You'd basically leave immediately. Next Monday? I know it's fast. But Ricky, this could change everything for you. I looked around my dorm room. Textbooks stacked on the desk. Clothes folded in neat piles. A few family photos I'd probably been naive to bring to college in the first place. Everything I needed fit in 2 suitcases. Everything that mattered to me would fit in a single backpack. My phone buzzed with another text from Tyler. I didn't read it. Instead, I smiled at Kevin. Set up the interview. The phone interview with Ford lasted 45 minutes and felt like the most natural conversation I'd had in months. Sarah Chen, the program coordinator, asked technical questions that made sense and seemed genuinely interested in my thoughts on automotive engineering challenges. We're particularly impressed with your ability to work under pressure, she said. The portfolio you submitted shows remarkable problem-solving skills, especially considering the circumstances under which you created it. Kevin had been right to mention the overnight recreation project in my application essay. If selected, would you be available to start this Monday? I know it's short notice. Hey, I said immediately. Excellent. We'll call with our decision tomorrow afternoon. When I hung up, I realized I hadn't hesitated even for a second. The thought of leaving home felt like relief rather than anxiety. Saturday morning, I drove home to collect a few more belongings just in case. The house looked the same as always, but something felt different. Maybe it was me. Tyler was in the living room, playing games on his new setup, the surround sound system, booming explosions and gunfire through the house at 9 a.m. "Hey, stranger," he said without looking away from his screen. "Mom's been asking about you." "Where is she?" "Working overtime at the diner. Dad's at the hardware store." I went upstairs to my room and started packing methodically. 3 changes of clothes. My grandfather's wristwatch. The engineering textbook Kevin had given me as a thank you gift. A photo of Mom from before everything became complicated. Tyler appeared in my doorway. "Going somewhere." "Maybe. Look about the laptop thing." Dad explained it to me better. He said you were mad about the timing, but you understand why it was necessary. I folded a shirt and placed it in my backpack. Is that what he told you? Yeah. He said family finances are tight right now and we all need to make sacrifices. Tyler, what sacrifices have you made? He shifted uncomfortably. Well, I had to drop one of my classes because it was too hard. That saved money on textbooks. You failed the class. That's not the same as dropping it. Whatever. The point is we're all struggling here. I looked at my little brother. Really looked at him. When had he gotten so soft? His face was rounder than I remembered, probably from spending 20 hours a day on the couch eating snacks. His clothes were newer than mine, I realized. Dad had been buying him things while telling me money was tight. Tyler, do you have a job right now? I'm between opportunities. That means no. I'm focusing on school. You're taking 8 credit hours at community college and failing half of them. His jaw tightened. Not everyone can be perfect like you. I'm not perfect. I work 40 hours a week and carry 18 credit hours because I have to. Because no one else is going to pay for my education or my life. Dad pays for your life. I gestured around my mostly empty room. Really, look around Tyler. What has Dad paid for in this room? Tyler looked confused. Well, the room itself, the house, the furniture, I guess you bought that. The computer, you bought that too. But Dad sold it for a good reason. The clothes, Tyler was quiet. The textbooks. The school supplies. The food I eat when I'm home, since I grocery shop for myself at college. Okay, I get it. You're independent. No Tyler. I'm ignored. There's a difference. My phone rang. Sarah Chen from Ford. Ricky, congratulations. We'd like to offer you a position in our advanced engineering training program. My heart hammered against my ribs. Thank you. I accept. Wonderful. A car will pick you up Monday morning at 7 a.m. I'll email you the details. Are you ready for an intensive 6 months? More than ready. After I hung up, Tyler was staring at me. Ford, like the car company. Training program in Michigan. I start Monday. Monday, that's in 2 days. I know. Tyler sat down heavily on my bed. You're really leaving? Yeah. Because of the laptop, I sat down next to him. Tyler, can I ask you something honestly? He nodded. Do you think it's fair that I work 2 jobs to pay for school while you get everything handed to you? That's not my fault. I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm asking if you think it's fair. Tyler was quiet for a long moment. I never really thought about it. Do you think it's fair that when you want something, Dad finds the money, but when I need something for school, he tells me money is tight? I guess I assumed you didn't need as much help because you're smarter. I felt a wave of sadness rather than anger. Being smart doesn't mean I don't need support. It just means I've learned to survive without it. So you're leaving because we don't support you enough? I thought about how to explain this. I'm leaving because staying here means accepting that my needs don't matter as much as yours. And I can't accept that anymore. Tyler nodded slowly. Are you going to come back? I don't know. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Tyler said, I'm sorry about your laptop. I didn't know it had important stuff on it. Thank you for saying that. And I'm sorry Dad took money from your account. That wasn't cool. I looked at my little brother and saw a glimmer of the person he could become if he ever had to develop his own strength instead of relying on Dad's favoritism. Tyler, can I give you some advice? Sure. Get a job. Any job. Start paying for your own things. You'll be surprised how much better you feel about yourself. Why? Because right now, you're not becoming your own person. You're becoming Dad's favorite project. And that's not good for either of you. Tyler frowned but didn't argue. Sunday evening, I sat at the kitchen table with Mom and Dad, telling them about the Ford program. Michigan. Mom said, her voice small. That's so far away. 6-hour drive, I said. Not that far, but you'll be gone for months. 6 months, then hopefully a job offer. Dad leaned back in his chair. I'm proud of you, son. I always knew that laptop situation would motivate you to find something better. I stared at him. Dad, you didn't motivate me. You sabotaged me. I succeeded despite what you did not because of it. That's not fair. What's not fair is you taking credit for something you almost destroyed. Mom put her hand on my arm. Ricky, we're proud of you, but we wish you weren't leaving angry. I'm not leaving angry, Mom. I'm leaving clear-headed. What's that supposed to mean? I looked around the table at my family. Dad, already defensive and ready to justify his actions. Mom, desperate to smooth things over without addressing the real problems. Tyler, listening from the living room, but pretending to focus on his game. It means I finally understand what this family actually is. And I'm choosing to build something different for myself. Early Monday morning, I stood at the end of our driveway with a single backpack and a small duffel bag, everything I owned that actually mattered to me. The Ford car arrived precisely at 7 a.m. Dad had gotten up early, apparently to say goodbye, but mostly to offer one last piece of manipulation. You know, son, if this program doesn't work out, you can always come home. Your room will be here. Thanks, Dad. And maybe when you get settled, you could send a little money home to help with bills, since you'll be making a good salary. I stopped with my hand on the car door handle. Dad, in the last year, how much money have you given me? That's different. You're the successful one. No, Dad. I'm the one you've been stealing from to subsidize Tyler's lifestyle. There's a difference. I got in the car without looking back. As we drove away, I watched my childhood home shrink in the side mirror until it disappeared completely. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe deeply. The drive to Michigan took 6 hours through farmland and small towns. The Ford recruiter who'd picked me up, a friendly guy named Marcus, told me about the program structure and what to expect. It's intensive, he warned. 16-hour days are normal. Some people wash out in the first month. I'm not worried about the work, I said. I'm worried about everything else. What do you mean? I'm just ready to be somewhere where what I contribute matters more than who my family thinks I should be. Marcus nodded. You'd be surprised how many people in this program are running from something. The best engineers are usually the ones who had to fight for everything they achieved. The Ford training facility in Dearborn was massive. A sprawling complex of modern buildings surrounded by perfectly maintained lawns. I felt intimidated and excited in equal measure. My roommate was Derek Mills, and I disliked him immediately. Single backpack, he asked, looking at my belongings with obvious disdain. Traveling light? I don't need much. Derek's side of the room looked like a luxury hotel suite. Expensive suitcases, designer clothes hanging in the closet, a laptop that probably cost more than my car. My father's the regional engineering director here, Derek announced casually. He's excited to see how I do in the program. That's nice. What does your father do? I thought about how to answer that truthfully. He makes poor financial decisions and blames other people for the consequences. Derek looked confused by my response and decided to ignore it. That first week was brutal. We covered advanced automotive systems, computer-aided design software, prototype development, and manufacturing processes. The days started at 6 a.m. and ended at midnight. I thrived. Derek struggled. While I spent my free time in the lab working on extra projects, Derek complained about the workload and how different the program was from his expectations. I thought this would be more theoretical, he said one evening as I worked late on a brake system efficiency project. All this hands-on stuff is beneath my skill level. How do you know if you haven't tried it? My father didn't get to director level by getting his hands dirty. I looked at Derek with his perfectly pressed clothes and manicured fingernails and realized something important. I wasn't the only one running from family expectations. Derek was running too, just in the opposite direction. 3 weeks into the program, Derek failed his first major project assessment. Spectacularly. His assignment had been to design an improved cooling system for electric vehicle batteries. Derek had submitted a theoretical framework full of impressive equations, but lacking any practical implementation details. During the review, instructor Paul Anderson asked Derek to explain how his design would actually be manufactured. Derek's response, "That's what engineers are for." The room fell silent. "You are supposed to be an engineer," Paul said dryly. Derek's face flushed red. After the presentation, he received a formal warning about potential program dismissal if his performance didn't improve immediately. That evening, I found Derek sitting alone in the common area, staring at his laptop screen with obvious frustration. "Rough day?" I asked. This program is ridiculous," Derek muttered. "They're obsessed with these tiny implementation details instead of focusing on big picture innovation. Those tiny details are what make innovation actually work." Derek looked at me for a long moment. "You really believe that?" "I know that. I've spent the last 4 years learning how to make things work with limited resources. Theory is useless if you can't build it. My father always said theoretical knowledge was more valuable than technical skills." I sat down across from Derek. "Can I ask you something?" He nodded. "Why are you here?" "What do you mean?" "If your father's already a director, and you think hands-on work is beneath you, why are you in a training program?" Derek was quiet for a minute. "Because my father said if I want his job someday, I need to understand how things actually work. He said I'm too soft." "Are you?" Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Look at me. I've never had a job, never built anything, never had to solve a problem I couldn't buy my way out of. Of course I'm soft." I studied Derek's face. Underneath the arrogance, he looked genuinely worried. "Derek, can I make a suggestion?" "I'm listening." "Work with me on the next project. I'll teach you the practical stuff you can help me with the theoretical framework. Your equations are actually pretty sophisticated." "You think so?" "Yeah, they're just not connected to reality. But that's fixable." Derek looked skeptical. "Why would you help me?" "Good question. Why would I help the spoiled rich kid who'd looked down on me since day one? Because everyone deserves a chance to prove they can change." The next project was a group assignment to design a revolutionary improvement to electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Teams of 3-6 weeks to develop a working prototype. Derek and I partnered with Maria Santos, a former military mechanic whose practical experience complemented our different skills perfectly. Maria had served 3 tours maintaining vehicles in Afghanistan and approached every problem with systematic precision. "So, what are we building?" Maria asked during our first team meeting. "Fast charging port that reduces charge time by 40%. I said immediately. Derek looked surprised. "How?" "Curse heat dissipation." I explained. "Current charging ports slow down when they get hot. If we can keep them cool, we can maintain maximum power flow." Theoretically possible. Derek said his mind already working. But the cooling system would need to be incredibly efficient. Military vehicles have excellent cooling systems, Maria added. I've worked on designs that function in 120-degree heat. For the next 4 weeks, we worked 18-hour days. Derek proved to be genuinely brilliant at mathematical modeling once he started applying his theories to real problems. Maria's engineering discipline kept us organized and on schedule. I focused on making our design actually buildable with available materials. Derek surprised me most. Away from his father's expectations and the pressure to maintain his superior attitude, he revealed himself to be curious and hardworking. He stayed up late learning manufacturing processes he'd never cared about before. "This is actually fun," he admitted one night as we tested our third prototype. "Engineering usually is," I said. "When you're solving real problems instead of theoretical ones. My father's going to be shocked that I'm enjoying the hands-on work. Maybe that's not a bad thing." Derek nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe not." Our final presentation was scheduled for the last week of the program. The audience included Ford executives, program instructors, and family members. Derek's father attended a stern-looking man in an expensive suit, who clearly expected his son to distinguish himself through intellectual superiority rather than collaborative teamwork. Our charging port prototype exceeded every performance target. During the demonstration, our system charged a test battery 43% faster than the current industry standard, while maintaining optimal temperature throughout the process. The executives were impressed. More than impressed. "This is exactly the kind of innovation Ford needs," said the VP of Advanced Engineering. "Have you considered patent applications?" After our presentation, Paul Anderson pulled our team aside. "Ford wants to offer all 3 of you immediate positions in the experimental division. Full engineering roles, not entry-level positions." Maria accepted immediately. Derek looked conflicted, glancing at his father who was deep in conversation with other executives. "What about you, Ricky?" Paul asked. "I thought about home. About Tyler's gaming setup purchased with my laptop money. About Dad's dismissive shrug when I'd asked how I was supposed to finish the school. What's the salary? Starting at $85,000 annually. Performance bonuses available. $85,000. More than Dad had ever earned in his life. I accept." Derek's father approached us as we finished talking with Paul. "Derek, I'm surprised," he said stiffly. "I expected you to focus on the theoretical framework, but you seem to have gotten distracted by implementation details." "Dad, those implementation details are what made our project successful. Success in a training program isn't the same as success in the real world." I watched Derek's face fall slightly. Even after weeks of genuine achievement, his father couldn't acknowledge growth that didn't match his predetermined expectations. "Mr. Mills," I interrupted. Derek's mathematical modeling was crucial to our breakthrough. Without his theoretical framework, we never would have achieved the performance results we demonstrated. Derek looked at me gratefully. His father seemed unimpressed. "Theory should lead implementation, not follow it." "With respect, sir," I continued. "The best engineering happens when theory and implementation inform each other." Derek learned to apply his theoretical knowledge practically, and that made him a much stronger engineer. Derek straightened up. "Dad, I want to take the Ford position." "You want to be a regular engineer? I thought you were preparing for management." "I want to be a good engineer first. Management can come later." Mr. Mills looked like he wanted to argue, but Derek had made up his mind. That evening, our team celebrated at a local restaurant. Derek was more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. "Ricky, thank you," he said. "For helping me, for standing up to my father, for showing me that engineering could be something I actually enjoyed." Thank you for proving that people can change when they want to. Maria raised her beer. To the most unlikely partnership in Ford history. We clinked glasses, and I realized something important. For the first time since leaving home, I felt like I was part of something positive. Something that built people up instead of tearing them down. My phone had been buzzing with texts from home all day. I hadn't read them. Whatever Tyler and Dad wanted it could wait. I was building something new. 2 years at Ford flew by faster than I'd expected. The experimental division felt like a graduate program where they paid you to learn instead of charging tuition. Derek, Maria, and I formed the core of a charging infrastructure team that consistently exceeded performance targets. Derek had transformed completely. Gone was the arrogant rich kid who thought hands-on work was beneath him. In his place was a focused engineer who could bridge theoretical concepts with practical solutions better than anyone I'd ever worked with. His father visited, occasionally still puzzled by Derek's enthusiasm for what he called technical minutia. Maria became our unofficial team leader, organizing our projects with military efficiency, while maintaining the collaborative atmosphere that made our work enjoyable. She had a gift for identifying potential problems weeks before they became actual problems. The charging port technology we'd developed during training evolved into a comprehensive system that Ford licensed to 3 other automotive manufacturers. Our names appeared on 7 patents. Industry publications started writing about our team's innovations. Most importantly, I felt proud of my work in a way I'd never experienced before. Every day brought interesting challenges. Every solution we developed made electric vehicles more practical for regular people. We were building something that mattered. My personal life improved too. I moved into a comfortable apartment 20 minutes from the Ford facility. I bought reliable furniture and decent clothes. I learned to cook more than instant noodles and frozen dinners. For the first time since childhood, I felt stable. Contact with home remained minimal. Mom sent birthday cards with brief notes about family news. Tyler's social media posts showed him continuing to live in Dad's basement, playing games, and working occasional part-time jobs that never lasted more than a few months. I sent Mom a Christmas card with a photo of our team receiving a Ford Innovation Award. No other communication seemed necessary. Christmas of the second year, Mom called. "Ricky, honey, how are you?" "Good, Mom. Really good. How's everyone there?" "We're fine. Tyler's doing well. He's been seeing a nice girl named Jessica." "That's nice." "Your father misses you." I doubt that I thought but said nothing. "He talks about how proud he is that you're doing so well at Ford." "He's proud. Of course he is. You're his son." The conversation felt surreal. Dad was proud of achievements he'd actively tried to prevent. "Mom, has anything changed at home?" "What do you mean?" "Is Tyler working? Is Dad treating you better? Has anyone learned anything from the last 2 years?" Long pause. "Things are about the same, honey." "Then Dad being proud doesn't really mean anything, does it?" After I hung up, I realized something important. I'd stopped being angry about home. Anger required energy I preferred to spend on productive things. Derek noticed the change at work. "You seem different lately, more settled." I think I finally stopped caring what my family thinks about my choices. That's probably healthy. Definitely healthy. At the end of our second year, Ford offered Derek, Maria, and me the opportunity to leave the company and start our own engineering consulting firm with Ford as our first major client. The deal included startup capital, continued access to Ford's research facilities, and guaranteed contracts for the first 2 years. "It's a chance to build something completely ours," Maria explained during the pitch meeting. Derek was excited. We could focus on the projects we're most passionate about instead of being assigned to whatever Ford needs. I was intrigued but cautious. What about security? Ford is stable. Security is overrated, Derek said. Besides, if we fail, Ford will hire us back. We've proven ourselves. After a week of consideration, I agreed. We formed ChargeTech Solutions, specializing in electric vehicle infrastructure innovations. Our first year as an independent company exceeded every expectation. We secured contracts with Ford, General Motors, and Tesla. Our charging port designs became the industry standard for fast charging applications. Derek handled business development and client relationships. Maria managed operations and project timelines. I focused on technical development and innovation. The combination worked perfectly. Derek's polished presentation skills and family connections opened doors. Maria's organizational expertise kept us on schedule and under budget. My technical innovations gave us competitive advantages that larger companies struggled to match. By our second year, we employed 12 engineers and had attracted $12 million in Series A funding from automotive industry investors. Industry publications started calling us the future of electric vehicle infrastructure. Innovation Weekly magazine featured ChargeTech as their Startup of the Year for our revolutionary modular charging systems that could be installed anywhere with minimal infrastructure modifications. The magazine cover was gorgeous. Professional photos of our team in the lab, dramatic lighting highlighting our charging port prototypes, a clean design with bold typography announcing our award. Derek ordered 50 copies for our office reception area. The same week the magazine hit stands, I received an email that felt like a message from another universe. Hi, son. Hope you're doing well. Tyler is getting engaged to his girlfriend, Jessica. We're planning a nice party for them. Could you chip in maybe 500 or 1,000 family helps family? Love, Dad. I stared at the message for several minutes. Family helps family. The same phrase he'd used to justify selling my laptop. Taking my savings. Prioritizing Tyler's wants over my needs. Now that I was successful, suddenly I was family again. I forwarded the email to Derek and Maria without comment. Derek's response came back immediately. Are you kidding me? Maria's was more diplomatic. Interesting timing. I spent the afternoon researching Tyler's current situation through social media and mutual connections. What I found was depressing, but unsurprising. Tyler had dropped out of community college entirely 2 years ago. He worked part-time at a grocery store 15 to 20 hours per week, barely enough to pay for his car insurance and gaming subscriptions. Dad continued to support him financially while Tyler pursued his dream of becoming a successful gaming streamer. His Twitch channel had 37 regular viewers. His YouTube gaming videos averaged 50 views each. He lived in Mom and Dad's basement, rent-free, while pursuing an entertainment career with no viable prospects. The engagement party registry Jessica had created included $1,500 worth of new gaming equipment, a $700 coffee machine, and a vacation to Cabo San Lucas. Dad's email hadn't been sent just to me. He'd copied Tyler's entire friend group, probably hoping one of them might contribute to the engagement party fund. But what really bothered me wasn't Tyler's continued dependence on Dad's enabling. It was the casual expectation that I would contribute to a celebration for someone who'd never shown interest in my life or achievements. Tyler hadn't called to tell me about the engagement personally. He hadn't congratulated me on ChargeTech's success, despite our magazine coverage being shared widely on social media. He'd never asked about my life in Michigan, or expressed any curiosity about my work. But Dad expected me to send money to celebrate Tyler's relationship. Family helps family. I picked up one of the 50 magazine covers Derek had ordered and studied our photo. 3 engineers who'd built something innovative and valuable through hard work and collaboration. Our success wasn't handed to us or enabled by someone else's sacrifice. We'd figured it out. I found a manila envelope in the office supply closet, slipped the magazine inside, and wrote Dad's address on the front. No letter, no explanation, just a yellow post-it note stuck to the magazine cover. I figured it out. I mailed it that afternoon. Derek found me at the mailbox. Revenge. Closure. What's the difference? Revenge would be calling to explain why I'm not sending money. Closure is demonstrating that his opinion of my resourcefulness turned out to be accurate. Derek grinned. That's cold. That's honest. 3 days later, Dad called. Dad's call came at 8:30 a.m. on a Thursday, right in the middle of our weekly team meeting. I let it go to voicemail. The message was illuminating. Son, I had no idea you were so successful. That magazine cover is incredible. Your mother and I are so proud of you. We always knew you'd do something special. Call me back, we need to catch up properly. I played the voicemail for Derek and Maria. He sounds panicked, Maria observed. He sounds like someone who just realized he may have treated a millionaire badly, Derek added. I deleted the voicemail and went back to our meeting. Dad called again that afternoon. Then again that evening. By the weekend, I had 12 voicemails from home. Tyler called too, which was unprecedented. His message was shorter. Dude, Dad is freaking out about some magazine. What's going on? Call me back. I didn't return any of the calls. Instead, I did something that felt much more productive. I called Kevin, my old study partner from university. Ricky, I saw the magazine coverage online. Charge Tech looks incredible. Thanks to your help getting started. If you hadn't lent me your laptop that night, none of this would have happened. I think you would have figured something out regardless. You always do. Kevin had graduated with his master's in mechanical engineering and landed a position with a renewable energy company in Colorado. He was engaged to a fellow engineer and seemed genuinely happy. Can I ask your advice about something? I explained the family situation, Dad's email request, my magazine response, and the subsequent panic calls. Kevin was quiet for a moment. What outcome do you want? I want them to understand that actions have consequences. Do you want a relationship with them? I thought about that seriously. Maybe with Mom. Probably not with Dad unless he fundamentally changes. And Tyler needs to grow up before we can have any kind of meaningful connection. Then you need to be clear about your boundaries instead of just being mysterious. Kevin was right. Sending the magazine without explanation had been satisfying, but it hadn't communicated anything specific about my expectations for future interactions. I think you should talk to them, Kevin continued. Not to repair the relationship, but to establish terms for what kind of relationship is possible going forward. On terms? Yeah. Like, what would need to change for you to consider them family again? What would they need to acknowledge or apologize for? What would Tyler need to do to earn your respect? I spent the weekend thinking about Kevin's suggestion. What would need to change? Dad would need to acknowledge that his favoritism toward Tyler had been harmful and unfair. He would need to apologize for taking my belongings and money without permission. He would need to stop enabling Tyler's refusal to become independent. Tyler would need to get a real job and support himself. Tyler would need to acknowledge that he'd benefited from unfair treatment. Mom would need to stop pretending that keeping peace was more important than addressing real problems. Most importantly, they would all need to understand that my success belonged to me, not to them. They didn't get to take credit for achievements they'd actively opposed. Monday morning, I finally returned Dad's calls. He answered on the first ring. "Ricky, thank God, I've been trying to reach you for days." "I know, I got your messages. That magazine cover is unbelievable. We had no idea you were so successful. CEO of your own company. We're so proud. Dad, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When you received that magazine, what was your first thought?" Pause. "I was amazed at how well you've done." "That wasn't my question. What was your very first thought when you saw my face on the cover of a national magazine?" Longer pause. "I was proud of you." "Dad, that's still not honest. Your first thought was probably something like, 'Oh shit, I treated a successful person badly.'" "That's not fair." "It's completely fair. If I was still struggling financially, would you have called to congratulate me on the magazine coverage?" "Of course I would have." "No, Dad, you wouldn't have. Because you only called after you realized I'm successful enough to potentially help Tyler financially." "That's not true." "Then explain why you've never called to check on my life in 4 years, but you called 12 times in 3 days after receiving that magazine." Silence. "Dad, I'm going to be very clear about something. You have 2 choices. You can acknowledge what actually happened 4 years ago and make genuine changes to how you treat people, or you can continue pretending that taking my belongings and money was justified. But you can't do both. Ricky, you're being unfair. Family is supposed to support each other." "I agree completely. Family should support each other. So, when did Tyler support me? When did you support my education instead of sabotaging it?" "We didn't sabotage anything. Dad, you sold my laptop 2 days before finals." "That was different." "How was it different?" "Tyler needed help, and I didn't." "You were always capable of taking care of yourself." There it was. The core belief that had driven 4 years of differential treatment. Dad, being capable of surviving your neglect doesn't mean I didn't deserve support. It just means I learned to succeed despite your choices. I'm proud of how successful you've become. You're proud of the outcome, but you opposed the process. That's not the same thing. I heard Tyler's voice in the background, then the phone being passed. "Ricky, it's Tyler. Dad told me about your company. That's awesome, man." "Thank you. Listen, about the engagement party thing. We don't actually need money from you. Dad was just excited about celebrating, and he thought maybe you'd want to contribute since you're doing so well." "Tyler, can I ask you something honestly?" "Sure. Do you think it was fair that Dad sold my laptop to buy your gaming equipment?" Pause. "I mean, it worked out okay. You ended up being successful anyway." "That's not what I asked. I asked if you think it was fair." "I don't know, man. We were both just trying to get by." "No, Tyler. I was trying to get by. You were being supported. There's a difference." "Look, I know you're mad about old stuff, but can't we just move forward?" "Tyler, are you currently working a full-time job?" "I'm working part-time and building my streaming business." "How many hours per week part-time?" "Like 15 or 20. "And how much money do you make streaming?" "It's not about the money right now. I'm building an audience." "How much money, Tyler?" "Maybe $50 or $60 a month." "So, you're 23 years old, working 15 hours a week for minimum wage, making $60 a month from your hobby, and Dad is still paying for your housing, food, and expenses. So, you're still the person who thinks he deserves gaming equipment bought with someone else's money." "That's not fair." "Tyler, nothing about our family has been fair, but I'm done pretending otherwise." I heard the phone being passed back to Dad. "Ricky, you're being too hard on Tyler. He's trying to find his path." "Dad, Tyler is 23. I was supporting myself at 23. Most people are supporting themselves at 23. Not everyone is as driven as you are." Not everyone has to be driven, but everyone should be independent. What do you want from us, finally? An honest question. I want Tyler to get a full-time job and pay for his own living expenses. I want you to stop enabling his dependence. I want Mom to stop pretending that avoiding conflict is the same as solving problems. And I want all of you to acknowledge that the way you treated me 4 years ago was wrong. And if we do those things, then maybe we can have a real relationship instead of this fake one where you pretend to be proud of success you actively opposed. Those are pretty harsh conditions. Dad, those aren't conditions. Those are basic requirements for functional adults and honest relationships. The line was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something, Ricky? Sure. Do you hate us? I thought about his question seriously. No, Dad. I don't hate you, but I don't respect you either. And respect isn't something you can demand. It's something you have to earn. After I hung up, Derek knocked on my office door. How did it go? About as expected. They want to act like my success validates their choices instead of contradicting them. What happens now? Now I wait to see if any of them are capable of actual change. Derek nodded. And if they're not, then I continue building something better without them. 3 weeks later, Tyler got a full-time job at an automotive parts store. 2 months later, he moved into his own apartment. 6 months later, Dad started attending financial counseling sessions. A year later, Mom left Dad temporarily to stay with her sister, while Dad figured out his priorities. Real change, it turned out, was possible, but it required consequences first. 6 months after my conversation with Dad, Tyler called me directly. No family emergency. No request for money. Just a simple question. Hey, Ricky, would you be willing to talk? We're talking now. I mean really talk, about everything. Tyler had been working full-time at the automotive parts store for 4 months. He'd moved into a studio apartment 15 minutes from the store and was, for the first time in his adult life, paying his own bills. What do you want to talk about? I think I owe you an apology. A real one, not the fake stuff I said before. This was unexpected. Okay, can we meet somewhere I could drive up to Michigan? Or you could come here, whatever works. I thought about it. Tyler had made concrete changes to his life. Actions rather than promises. You can come here. But Tyler, I want you to know that I'm not looking to repair our relationship just because you got a job. I need to see that you understand why your behavior was problematic. I think I'm starting to understand. That's what I want to talk about. Tyler drove to Michigan the following weekend. I picked him up at his hotel Saturday morning, and we met at a coffee shop near the Ford facility. He looked different. Thinner, but in a healthy way. More alert. His clothes were clean but inexpensive, the kind of outfit someone wears when they're paying their own bills and learning to budget. You look good, I said honestly. Thanks, I feel different. How so? Tyler stirred his coffee thoughtfully. I never realized how much energy it takes to avoid responsibility. Like I spent years making excuses for why I couldn't work more than part-time, why I couldn't move out, why I deserved help that you didn't get. All that justification was exhausting. What changed? Getting cut off from Dad's money mostly, but also working with people my age who have real responsibilities. My manager at the parts store is 24 and supports his wife and baby on his salary. My co-worker, Jessica, is 25 and owns her own house. Being around them made me realize how immature I was. Tyler paused, then continued. And honestly, your conversation with Dad scared me. Not because you were mean, but because you were right. I was 23 years old and living like a teenager. That's embarrassing. It takes strength to admit that. I wanted to hate you for pointing it out, but I couldn't because everything you said was true. We sat quietly for a moment. Tyler seemed to be gathering courage for something. Ricky, I need to tell you something I've never told anyone. Okay, I knew it was wrong. When Dad sold your laptop, when he took money from your account, when he bought me things with money meant for your tuition. I knew it was unfair, and I let it happen anyway, because it benefited me. This was more self-awareness than I'd expected from Tyler. I told myself that you were smarter and stronger so you didn't need as much help. But really, I was just scared that if Dad stopped giving me special treatment, I'd have to prove I was worth something on my own. And now I know I am worth something. Not much yet, but something. And it feels better to earn $20 than to be given $100. I studied my little brother's face. He looked older, more serious, but also more peaceful than I'd seen him in years. Tyler, can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you really want to meet? Tyler smiled, but it was a sad smile. Because I miss you. I miss having a big brother. But I understand why you don't want that relationship with the person I used to be. What kind of person are you now? I'm working on figuring that out. But I know I don't want to be the kind of person who takes from family members and calls it sharing. We talked for 3 hours. Tyler told me about his job, his apartment, his plans to start taking classes at the community college again, this time paying his own tuition. He asked about Charge Tech, about Derek and Maria, about my life in Michigan. For the first time since childhood, we had a conversation as equals. One more thing, Tyler said as I drove him back to his hotel. I wanted to give you something. He handed me a folded check. What's this? $537. The money Dad took from your savings account. I saved it from my paychecks. I looked at the check, then at Tyler. You don't need to do this. Yes, I do. It's not about the money, it's about accountability. I kept the check not because I needed the money, but because Tyler needed to give it. 3 months later, Mom called. Ricky, I owe you an apology. For what? For letting your father treat you and Tyler differently for so many years. For telling myself that keeping peace was more important than fairness. For not standing up for you when you needed support. What changed Mom, Tyler did mostly. Watching him become independent and responsible made me realize how much damage we did by enabling his dependence. And watching you succeed despite our failures made me realize how much we took for granted. Mom had moved back home, but with conditions. Dad was attending weekly financial counseling sessions and had agreed to equal treatment for both sons going forward. The house rules had changed completely. Your father wants to talk to you, she continued, but he's embarrassed about how he handled things before. He should be embarrassed. He is. He's also proud of you, genuinely proud. Not because you're successful, but because you became successful despite the obstacles we created. 6 months later, Dad called. A different version of Dad than I remembered. Son, I've been thinking about our conversation last year. And I was wrong. About everything. About favoring Tyler, about taking your things, about acting like you owed us something instead of the other way around. What made you realize that? Financial counseling, mostly. The counselor asked me to make a list of everything I'd given each of my sons over the past 5 years. When I wrote it all down, the difference was shocking. Tyler got thousands of dollars worth of support. You got criticism for needing help. Dad's voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. I also want to thank you. For what? For forcing Tyler to grow up. He's a good kid now. He was always a good kid, but we were ruining him by making everything too easy. And now he's someone I'm actually proud of. Not proud of his potential or his intentions, but proud of what he's accomplished with his own effort. One year, after sending that magazine, I received a handwritten letter from Tyler. Not an email or text, but an actual letter on paper. Ricky, it read, I wanted you to know that I'm enrolling in automotive technology classes at the community college. I'm paying my own tuition with money I saved from working. I chose automotive technology because I want to understand the industry you're succeeding in. Not to compete with you, but to connect with you. I hope that's okay. 6 months later, Tyler graduated from the automotive technology program with honors. He got hired by a Ford dealership as a junior mechanic and was promoted to senior mechanic within a year. 2 years later, Tyler applied to transfer to a 4-year engineering program. He wrote his application essay about learning the difference between entitlement and ambition from his older brother, who figured it out the hard way. 3 years later, Derek, Maria, and I sold ChargeTech to Tesla for $42 million. We stayed on as the electric vehicle infrastructure division with complete autonomy to continue our research and development work. 4 years later, Tyler graduated with a mechanical engineering degree, which he paid for entirely with his own money and student loans. No family contribution required. 5 years later, Tyler started his own automotive repair business specializing in electric vehicles. His first call was to ask for technical advice, not money. Dad never asked me for money again. Instead, he started asking for advice about how to support Tyler's business goals without enabling dependency. Mom became someone I enjoyed talking to once she stopped trying to smooth over problems instead of addressing them. The family dynamics had completely reversed. I was now the person relatives called for career advice. Tyler was respected for his work ethic instead of pitied for his struggles. Dad learned to express pride in achievements rather than potential. But the most important change was internal. I stopped being angry about the past because the present had become something I'd actively chosen rather than something that happened to me despite my family's choices. Last month, Tyler called with news. Ricky, I'm getting married. Jessica, the girl from the parts store. We've been saving for 2 years and we can afford a small wedding ourselves. Congratulations. I wanted to ask you something. Sure. Would you be my best man? I thought about 19-year-old Tyler unboxing gaming equipment purchased with my laptop money. Then I thought about 28-year-old Tyler running his own business and planning a wedding he could afford. Yes, I said. I'd be honored. At Tyler's wedding, Dad gave a speech that surprised everyone. When Tyler was young, I thought the best way to help him was to make things easy. I was wrong. The best thing I ever did for Tyler was stopping the help when his older brother forced me to realize I was hurting rather than helping. Ricky, thank you for caring enough about our family to demand that we become better. After the reception, Tyler pulled me aside. I have something for you. He handed me a small wrapped box. Inside was a silver bookmark with an engraving. To the brother who figured it out first and taught the rest of us how. 6 years after leaving home with a single backpack, I stood at my little brother's wedding surrounded by a family that had learned to function through honesty rather than manipulation, accountability rather than enabling, and mutual respect rather than favoritism. We had all figured it out eventually, but more importantly, we had figured out how to build something better together. The kid who had been dismissed as resourceful had become the adult who taught his family what real resourcefulness looked like, not just surviving dysfunction, but refusing to accept it as permanent. Sometimes the best way to save a family is to leave it long enough for everyone to grow up. Have you ever had to walk away from a family situation to protect your own growth and goals? How do you balance loyalty to family with accountability for their behavior? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button, subscribe for more content about overcoming family challenges and building success. Despite difficult circumstances, and share this with anyone who might need to hear. That, sometimes, walking away is the first step toward building something better. Thanks for listening, and remember that your worth isn't determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to treat yourself. Keep figuring it out.